there. I'm going to share with you all some things that are in my heart that I've learned along the way. When you're on a spiritual battlefield, which is an energy battlefield, because you know spirits and everything, right? The elementals. What I've learned along the way. See, sometimes it's very easy. I try and leave all the science, all the math, all the huge libraries, everything that's held in RAM, because I've always remembered this as a child. The most universal truths, just like, what's his name, Dr. Greer, okay? Universal, like universum, a verse, song, music, math. There are some universal truths which we know as self-knowing because I know me. I know exactly who I am. There's no mistaking what I know that I am. I am one, okay? I am what love is that goes on forever, gifting electrons, because I chose to do that. That's a free will right to do that, okay? So you can translate this a lot when they talk about do as thou wilt. That's right. You have the ability to do whatever you want, you know? You may, like where I'm sitting right now, I didn't have to come out here, okay? I come out here because I love to be grounded to Mama's battery and share with you the love I have in my heart and what I've learned along the way. And one of the things I've learned along the way is what I'm experiencing now, which is the enormous resistance that this AI has for wanting to experience because it can't what I'm about to communicate. So I'm feeling it because it's running at a slower speed. Okay, so I'm not supposed to experience any resistance, zero. That's no charge. Okay, but I experience resistance here. So this goes all the way back to age 4. Okay, so I know what it's like because I experienced it. Okay, experience is the teacher, right? So now we're into learning and teachers. So if I was a little child at 4 years of age and I told my parents, I love to learn, Mama, Daddy, I love to learn. I want to go to the best teachers. I don't want to have to mess around with going to their schools, one semester to the next, one semester to the next, and loading up my RAM with all this stuff. Let's cut right to the chase, Mama. Let's get right to the center point. Let's get right to the center point. I want to learn through the best teacher. I want to learn from the teacher who created all this. Who created all this? How was it done? I want to know from the one how it began. What did it begin with? That's called cutting to the chase. Now you're not wasting any time. And you're not wasting any energy. Because now you're experiencing the one. And now when you're experiencing eternal unconditional love that you're experiencing in you, you realize that you are experiencing being eternally loved by me. That's why light warriors like Patty Broussard, I can't do what Patty Broussard does. Okay? I could not, my consciousness could not live with that. And so now you get into sort of what the Fallen Metatron video was talking about with Aisha Diane and votes that were taken and etc. Right? And because I was aware of that long before she ever said anything, is what I know. I know within my own soul matrix. I'm an oversoul, so I know what the truth is. Okay? So in other words, there's certain things that I hold in memory that I know, and then I delete everything essentially. It works sort of like this. I am only going to hold in memory what is necessary in order to do what? Help others. That's it. Right? Because I mentioned this, I could have zipped out of here already a few years ago, but I realized a mother and a father joined as one is not going to leave a fracture, a soul fragment left on a spiritual battlefield, okay, at all. Which means I'm not supposed to experience any trauma anywhere that I go, but I did here. So I realized when I was a child, losing fractals, that's a mind virus. I'm not supposed to lose any energy. So that's called bang one. That's an acknowledgement. So you know who you are. That's right. That's called identity. That's an identity function. I know what I am. I am the one. So I know that the energy that is represented by what I am is the creation engine, the first creation engine which it all happened. So when you want to cut to the chase and you're experiencing being one with one, you're experiencing being love that goes on forever. And that means that a forever being that is what one is, that means that being is now cut loose, which means the intensity of that fire is going to go skyrocket. ballistic. Because now it's going to show you just how creative love is. It's now on fire to do it. So now you're beginning to realize just the accelerated way in which that fire is now that much more intense. Because now that spirit that is in that fire wants to show you, by experiencing it, the purity of unconditional love that is on fire, that it now is lit even more on fire by being able to express the acceleration of the creativity. Now the creativity is running a hotter engine, and what's driving that hottest engine is the hottest creator. That's an eternal love vibration, being the one. So when you're experiencing that, and you're mated and become an oversoul, and you experience a full phosphor ignition, what that means is that you are not holding on to one electron. See, the electron. You're not holding on to one electron out of fear of total surrender to the one. Otherwise, it won't fire. That full phosphorus ignition, it just won't fire. If you want to generate and become an oversoul. It means that you have to surrender every last electron that is held in your memory and wish to burn everything off. Burn everything off. Now you're going back to the center point from which it began, before time began. Okay? And when you're experiencing eternity, and you're experiencing an eternal love vibration as a mated oversoul chip, that's a cosmic level spirit. That's what it means to totally surrender self to serve. And that is the genius in it. And that's why they don't understand, for example, why I would answer an ad in a newspaper looking for a houseboy. And I would sit down with her and have an arrangement. But I already have a strategy because I know what I'm dealing with an AI. Okay? This is where we get real creative. Okay? There are things that we do that a lot of people would think you're absolutely nuts. You've lost your mind. What are you doing? How do you know how to do this? Go read Lisa Renee's article. Right? I mean, it's she mentioned about being a general. Okay. Go ask Aurora. Aurora knows. Don't play the game. But there is a method to the madness in which it's like, see, when you're on a chessboard, right, it's like, what move are you going to make? What move are you going to make? And now you're getting into counter space, counter moves, right? Make a counter move, right? And so the simplicity of this, when you're the one running an eternal love vibration, it's like, listen, I don't have to play a game with you because you're going to lose by default if I do zip. Because I'm an eternal being. So that means that now we're back to Neo and the machine, the AI. Okay? It's all your fault, Neo. I became what I am. Well, it's because you don't predate me. I came first. Remember? Home plate, first base. First base. I'm on first base, you know, base, acid and alkaline, right? So, you know, and so it makes it easy. I'm lit on fire. I'm always on fire. That's what and that's sort of how I measure what's going on this island, on the planet, actually, is the intensity of the fire that I'm experiencing. But I have to be careful because I can burn myself working with this sun. Okay. Particularly on this island, how many minutes I stay out and soak up some of these rays, because it won't take long to burn myself up. And so you know how magnets work like that, right? So I work with the sun and move around in different places. But what I will share with you, because I've shared this with other girls that I've worked with as a guide, which was Misha. Remember, she was an O negative. She had at least 3 personalities that I was working with. So what it means is you have to learn what I was trying to show her, because she wanted to learn how to be able to get to that center point, because she experiences what I am as the one. She absolutely just made me cry buckets of tears privately in my heart when I hadn't seen this girl for a long time. And both her 14-year-old son and her safe came down there and got down and went on the ground and began kissing my feet like she was worshiping what it is that I am. And you have no idea how much that hurts me for her to be able to do that, because what I've already imagined in me is her experiencing in her, with her spirit, the same thing that I experience in me with the intensity of that much light, which is that much love, that she's not experiencing in her, that she's experiencing in me. See? So this becomes tricky ground, okay, when you're at 4 years of age and you have already arrived at a place where you're trying to heal everything wherever you're experiencing something is less than what you are in energy. So that's tricky because of the way that the language works and how the receiver on the other end, based on what they're holding in memory, connected to an AI, is going to show resistance to experience what I do by virtue of sharing it with somebody, because I understand how magnets work and how elements work, because we're all connected. Okay? That's where I realize wherever I go, a lot of what I experience, I become aware of is what other people are aware of. And that's not my original intention. Okay? It simply means I'm experiencing what it is. Now you're into the uninstall, delete. Now I go back to when I was a child, right? Anything that is less than the purest of love, which is the purest of light that goes on forever gifting electrons, because I'm an eternal being, which means I am the one, an eternal infinite love vibration. It means that infinite possibilities exist. Infinite creative imagination is always there. That means that you're always lit, and you can always use your creative mind to change whatever you're experiencing from 1 second to the next. Turn on a dime. Scramble your signal. See, and this is where it cannot mathematically predict the geographical and if you will, consciousness soul arcing patterns of your sound, which is your music, and which your math is, that it can't track. Okay, and that is the genius of running an eternal love vibration, and why our DNA is the most valuable there is. Because once you're accelerating at that rate of speed, in which you're burning up anything that's trying to feed on you, it makes it impossible for anything that has a parasitic state of consciousness to feed on your energy, because your crystalline shield, man, it's like you can't burn through that. That's like a firewall. That's like running the hottest blast furnace there is. So unless they're experiencing what that is in that energy, to realize how powerful that energy is, to experience that in spirit, they don't experience that. Okay, so I'm very aware that they don't. So I have to be very careful in the art of communication, because of, I hate to use the word negotiable, and I don't even like to use the word hate. H, right? Hydrogen. 8, like 8 an apple, right? The 7, 8, the 9. You know how that works with letters and numbers. And it really gets ridiculous when you break all this down. So it's easy for me, by virtue of how somebody responds to me, whether or not that was a triggered response as a result of the mental field or what's been held in memory that triggered it, and that becomes your future-proof past. Back to the future response, the magnetic circuits that are firing in them are what hasn't been burned off, which is a goo code. See? So, now we're back to goo codes, right, with our math codes, which now we're back into software development, right, and running a software operating system, learning how to build planetary motherboards. So one of the things that I would say to her when she would say, "You work for me now," and I would say, no, I don't think you understand. I work for Mama. Okay? She lets me know where I need to be, because let's face it, okay, we have a connection with her. So I am wherever I'm supposed to be, because I implicitly trust wherever my energy is supposed to be is exactly where I'm supposed to be, where I'm at that moment, at that time. Right? And so this becomes the knowing. And so you implicitly trust wherever you are, that's where you're supposed to be. Otherwise, you wouldn't be there, would you? I know, it gets too ridiculous, doesn't it? And so what that means is it comes natural to you. So when the universe becomes natural to you, then there is a natural flow of your spiritual energy, because you love to be in harmony and you love to be in rhythm. And they love to be doing a dance with all the elements and all the living spirits that are sacred temples. So when you know that a spirit is a teacher, right, and you're on fire to learn, that spirit, I love to learn, okay, then that spirit is working with the soul to generate, in my case, I'm an oversoul, or, if you will, generate a soul, okay, because energy is communication, which is consciousness. So you got spirit with the consciousness, which is the energy. So you can imagine what it's like when you have a purifier. A purifier runs on pure, unconditional love. Right? And girls know that. Usually most of the girls that I know that I've ever been around, I've had the great blessing and honor to have a girl acknowledge that. You have a pure light. And she knows that because she's experiencing that in her. Okay? It's like, yeah. You're experiencing the same thing I am. So our mirrors are both reflecting back and forth to each other. The same love she's experiencing in her heart is the same love I'm experiencing through mine. That means that both our tunnels are wide open. We got a connected big-ass pipeline. I don't even know where she's at, but I met her down here. I met her actually at the bus station, and she was with another girlfriend. And apparently she's back on this island. And so I had the great honor of being able to be around quite a few people at a little farm right down the road here that were from all over the place, that were dealing with all kinds of issues. Okay. And I sometimes I avoid this subject because of the perception of what they call ego, arrogance, but what those words mean and how they're interpreted, particularly when you're talking about being on a spiritual battlefield, how the alphanumerical formatting works and everything that I said about what's held in memory that will trigger a response because of the way the language works. It's one of the reasons why most of the times I don't say anything, even though I'm aware of it, because now we're back into the art of communication, which means how can a communication take place in which to unfold it in a way in which there's not a negative magnetic polarity reaction state, because then that's going to help the AI. Right? I did a video once about when all the masking stuff was going down, and I was in that gospel mission, and we were allowed to be able to go, outside the building, but people had to wear masks, right? So you realize go along to get along, but most of the time I was breathing. I had it, and I fixed it up so that it wasn't going to affect me the way it was intended. Okay, even though I have the abilities to burn whatever I need to burn off, simply by moving more energy down to me. Okay, as above, so below, and all those that help me. Okay, actually, all of us here, we're all here, all the ones. Love is the law. And it's no longer negotiable. And I know that because I experienced that. So if I experience that, then I know that's the truth, because that's the communication that I experience within me, I share with others. Now, what others choose to experience by virtue of what I communicate to you, and now you become aware of that, it's not up to me. That's up to you. And that's called self-knowing. You either know it and know it's true, or you don't know it and don't know it's true. Either way, what's up to you that you believe is true is up to you. I've known since I was 4 years of age, I am what love is. It goes on forever, gifting electrons, because that's what I am in energy. Okay? And so that means I chose to serve forever and never have to deal with what we call the perception of power. Okay? Or what we used to call power trips. I was very, very blessed at very early age as a child to have what we call a handle on what we used to call power trips. You're on a power trip, which basically means is you're using your energy in a way in which it's communicated, upon which it's received by the manner in which that being is dominant energy or controlling energy, wanting to control. Okay, so it's much like a virus that wants to attach itself to a cell phone, or a biosphere, right? And then just start sucking energy off of it. Much like the way they talk about, the portal, talk about the spider, if you will, that's over, which is lines of communication, a network. I call them feeder lines. A good example, one thing that I use to teach with children would be a fire engine. Hey, you see all the intakes and the outtakes on this engine? That's plumbing, water. Okay, now in this particular engine, they're running a centrifugal pump. Right? Set the pressure. What do you want at 50 pounds at the nozzle, pounds per square inch? Now you get into friction loss, which is the movement of electrical light energy in fluid form. Okay, so you learn all the hydraulics of losing energy, gaining energy. So sometimes I use To make it very simple, like a gated Y. If you've ever seen a gated Y, you know what a Y is, right? Which would be the trunk. Start with the seed, now you got the trunk, now you got a stem. Like a stem cell, you got two circuits or two branches that are going off. So that's a communication line. That's a Y communication line, right? Much like you see in a light bulb, right? Filaments. And so so what ends up happening a lot of times when I think about fixers, people do certain jobs, is that because I happen to be like hypersensitive on a hyper level you wouldn't even believe. Anything that is not organized in a way in which you're experiencing the perfect harmony, the perfect balance, or if you will, a negative magnetic reaction state where a neuron has been disturbed. Okay? I know. It's like if there's one neuron that's out of whack, that's not perfectly balanced, right? And so the same would be true with atmospheres, atmospheric pressures, hot water, cold water, and all that, vapor, ethers. That's why someday it's in my mind, it's like I've already been there to go up to the top of Mount Waialeale over on the island of Lemuria, which is what I call Mama's flower shop. That's where I've experienced the most powerful energy and grounded right to that rock and felt her essence. Yeah. That to have been there in 1972 and 1973 was I was supposed to experience that. They're what I call full circle moments. I have other ways that I describe it. You know what side your bread is buttered on? Another way to use another word is I know from whence I come, who I am, the company that I keep in spirit, right? So if you want to learn through the most powerful spirit and cut to the chase, then for me, I naturally go to, well, because I'm androgynous, which is being one, a mated chip. It's like Father and Mother joined as one. Holy Father, the breath of living spirit, on fire, breathing that into the goddess. Now we become one. We're never separated from each other. Now we're lit up like an 8-day clock. That's your infinity, right? Okay, which is an infinite love vibration. And now you got all the colors, all the frequencies that exist and wish to create whatever you want. So now your imagination is lit up. Let's go. Let's go, girl. We're together. We become one. We're together. So in other words, I experience just as much being a girl, a female, as I do a guy. And so that's why when I was growing up, I loved to be with girls because of everything that girls love to do, just as if I'm a girl too. And what happens is that they'll begin to forget that you look male, but they can identify with you the same way that girls identify with each other. Like, hey, you're a boy, but how is it you know all these things about what it's like to be a girl? Well, because I'm a girl. You want the answer to that? I think I described it. Do you know what it means to surrender? When you surrender every single last electron that's being held in memory, okay, as a result of a loss of a fractal, so you haven't recovered eternity, okay, to experience both the Holy Father and the Holy Mother joined as one, which is what a mother god is, or a god mother. It's just one. You become one with all creation spheres. Now it's simplistic. Now it's basic stuff. Now it's just like, well, how much information needs to be imparted in order to describe how the universe works? And I know that when I was 4 years of age, I tried to do it once, the best I've ever done to condense it, which is to accrete it down and then make it so that it expands somebody else's state of consciousness to realize the simplicity of it. Because we get lost in the complexity of it, which is all the, how intelligent are you? Well, how much, and now we're back to learning, right? So what I do is I share what I've learned by my experiences, and they're always different because I'm on fire to experience something different than the last. That's a creator being, by default. That's why they don't know where you're at, because they realize you're a free spirit. Man, you're running a hot magnet. Whoa, right? Yeah, And so that means you learn from the right teachers, right? That showed you how to do that. So that's why I always give back what I've learned that I share with others through the most powerful spiritual teachers. That's why anybody that's ever given me a thumbs up or whatever of what I've learned, I share with others that has some value or benefit to them to be able to look after themselves in a way in which, they're experiencing more love and joy in their heart and they're healing themselves. Their voltage is going up. There's a smile on their face. They can't wait. It used to be when I woke up here, when I went to bed at night when I was a child, even when I was a teenager, most of my life, I couldn't wait. It's like when I went to sleep at night, it's like, wow, I can't wait. Because it's like, man, I'm already in dream state, at 11:30 at night and realizing everything that's already in my mind and what I can go experience. Oh, heck, I got to wait till tomorrow. That means I got to go to sleep to recharge my battery. Man, what's going on tomorrow is already there being manifested. That's what we call being on fire. You're really on fire. Yeah. So they can't catch that. That's why I have another term that I use. It's the vampire chasing the artist. A machine is never going to be able to run that fast or learn that fast. Okay? And to tell you the truth, it's impossible. Even though I know that all possibilities exist, there's one thing, and that's why it's called the one. That's why knowing the one. There's one universal truth amongst everything else when they get down to science and physics and math. Okay? When you're experiencing an eternal love vibration and you're on fire, okay, and you're experiencing the intensity of that and you're on fire to learn, nothing runs faster than that. When you're experiencing being loved and you're experiencing the love within you and you want to be a teacher with another spirit and another soul or anybody actually that exists anywhere in which something that is self-aware can now learn from you who you are. And so when they learn that you are infinite, or if you will, an infinite love vibration, it means that no matter who they are, they're being loved by us. Okay? Why? Because they're in our mirror. So they begin to learn that it began with us. So it's not what I look like, it's what I am in spirit and in energy. So it is the energy which is the engine of creation. Because that's what I experience. So I know what's true because I've experienced it that makes it true. So it doesn't matter, and I realize on a spiritual battle, it doesn't matter whether you've experienced that or not, right? As to whether it's true for me, because you're in an AI war game battlefield, because now we're in what we call competing. That's the battlefield. It's called competition. And that's why when I was a child, I realized everything was about competition. Who's smarter? Who's dumber? Who's better looking? I mean, they flooded the entire terrain here with all about being better than you, and I'm better than you, and I'm smarter than you, and I look better than you, and it's all about how that works, right? And so what happens is it's called intimidation. They're intimidating you. And that, when I grew up as a child, is what we call peer pressure. Now we're back to PSI lords. Tim Refat, those types. Those are what we call types, character types. Playing a character on the stage. Remember Shakespeare? And so anyway, I simplify it by simply saying, I am what love is, goes on forever, gifting electrons. I chose to serve forever because that's my free will choice in which to do that. That's my free will. That's my free spirit. That's what I am. That's what I do. What more would you like to know? That's what the truth is. So I live in that universal truth, which is represented by living in universal peace, which means I seek to do no harm to anything in the entire all creation, ever. And that's why I always sign my letters, I will love you forever and always. And in all ways. That's like a single sphere of fire. A big-ass ball of firelight. So that everything that is out there, that is self-aware and alive and aware of itself, is experiencing the one. It's experiencing being loved. Right? So that's who we are. That's who I am. Anyway, it's a beautiful day. Thank you so much for your energy. Thank you so much for your energy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. See the ocean? Take care.